All right, I think we are live. Let me check. Just one sec. Yes, sir. We are live. Let's fucking go.
Let's go.
All right, let's just like and repost this stuff, and I'll make sure the community knows that we're live as well. All right, let me just post this in Discord, and then we should be good to go. You look so fresh, BAWSA, by the way.
Dude, honestly, like I feel the exact opposite, right? I think I need a shower and everything.
Is that right?
No, I appreciate it, bro. Thank you.
But yeah, dude, honestly, you look very fresh. Like, is it hot in Cali at the moment?
It actually got a lot cooler. I think once it starts hitting like October, you start to feel a little bit more of the cold. Especially like during the nighttime now. But in the mornings, it's still somewhat hot, but not like summer hot where it's like blazing. We use Fahrenheit here, so it's like 100 degrees Fahrenheit sometimes. So yeah, it's crazy. But yeah.
Dude, my goodness. Are you planning any like winter holiday trips somewhere?
Well, my birthday's in January, so I don't think like
Oh wow.
for this year wise, like as far as like going out for winter this year, I don't think so. But probably January when next year when it comes around, we'll probably make a trip to like the Philippines or something, you know.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you tend to go to the Philippines every year?
Yeah, I try to. We can't make it as much as often as we'd like, but if I can, and if the time is right, situation's right, then obviously would love to. But yeah, I love that place.
Yeah, I mean that's your background, anyways, right? Like you're Filipino.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Do you go there with like your partner, like your fam, like?
Yeah, it's usually both.
Okay.
But yeah, this past January one is it was my girlfriend's brother's wedding, so yeah, that was like the most recent occasion to be there. But other than that, it's mainly just pure vacation. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So I'm assuming your partner is also Filipino?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if you want to kind of like go a little bit into detail, because I mean, the whole idea of this is, I mean, it's just, chill vibes. I mean,
hell yeah.
At the moment to lo-fi plush. This is also, think of it like brick by brick, right? It's just chill, like nothing too serious. Just getting to know you a little bit better. And if you want to talk about like your personal life, the stuff that you used to do before Web3.
Yeah.
It sounds like, or it seems, right? Like people now know you, right? Like now you're this KOL. But before becoming the KOL here in Web3, who is BAWSA? Who was BAWSA? Like, why BAWSA, by the way? Like, I'm assuming that's just a nickname, right? But yeah.
No, yeah, I love these questions, man. Honestly, like, the whole name thing, right? Where did BAWSA come from? So for those, like, I'm actually like pretty heavily doxed now that I realize it. But like, my first name is actually Jeffrey, right? And my last name is BAWSA. But
I see. Okay.
Yeah, but it's originally spelled with just BASA, so it doesn't have the W like how I have it displayed here. But I added the W because a lot of people tend to pronounce my last name incorrectly. Like I remember in elementary school a lot, it's always like Basa or Bassa,
I
but
see.
it was never Bossa. So I thought, right, by adding the W in the middle that it would help with pronunciation. But till this day, I still get like Bowsa. Like I can see that where like the
Yeah.
owl comes from, but I feel like that would be spelled BAO. But anyways, aside from the point, that's where Bossa came from. And like all my friends in high school, even like when I was a kid, they would all call me by my last name more than they would by my first name.
Okay.
So it's funny, like throughout my life, I feel like I've introduced myself in like with Jeffrey or like Jeff, and then like
Yeah.
people started calling me more Bossa. I started introducing myself as Bossa now, you know. So yeah, it's interesting, man. It's interesting, but that's where the name came from. But
Okay.
to tell you a little bit more about myself before Web3 came, right? I think one of the biggest things that I was so heavily into was music, man. Like
Mm.
I was so huge into music. I picked up piano at 9 years old. I picked up
Oh wow.
Ableton, which is like a digital audio workstation to make music. I picked that up around like 12 or 13. And then
Mhm.
when I was 14, 15 years old, that's when I picked up DJing. And I believe when
Oh,
you're
okay.
14, that's when you're a freshman in high school. And
Mm.
so I started DJing a lot of like the high school parties, one for my high school, and then
Yep.
as my name continued to get around, I started DJing for like many other high schools around my city. And you know, from pretty much freshman year of high school till graduating college, so like for almost 5 years straight, I dedicated my whole life to just like DJ. I was trying to do as much gigs as possible. I was trying to, you know, do as many clubs out here in LA. And it just became like this, weekend thing where, every single weekend I'd be either DJing a high school prom, I'd be at the club, but like,
Even at 15 though, like you would be
yeah,
quote unquote clubbing at 15, but you were just DJing and I guess
exactly.
drinking soft drinks, I guess.
So like, dude, there's been so many like funny scenarios where I'd be talking to a club promoter, and then like we talk like set up a gig, and then
Mm.
out of nowhere they'll ask me like, oh yeah, by the way, how old are you? And then like I'll tell them I'm like, oh, like I'm actually like just like 17 or 18, and
Yeah,
they're like, wait a minute, we can't even get you inside the club because our venue is only
I know.
21 and over, so like. Yeah, there's so many scenarios like that, and like obviously as bumming as it was,
Mm.
it still felt pretty cool to be acknowledged by like these 21 plus venues, and they'd
Yeah.
want to book me, so yeah, man, like I had a lot of interest in just music in general, man, because even after or in college, I went to college for an audio production degree,
Okay.
and I actually graduated with an associate's background in audio production,
Far
which
out. Okay.
yeah, that kind of gave me the education and entry to kind of get into studios, because that was something that I always wanted to do, was actually work with a lot of artists. Like
Yep.
DJing was cool and all, but I've always wanted to be the one also creating the music that they play at the clubs, right? So like,
Right. So more
um,
like in the producer side of things.
exactly.
Okay.
So I felt like I almost hit all angles of music, right? Which is like from the producing end to DJing, and then to now like recording and doing more like back end, music production work. And that I did that essentially from like 2019, 2018 to like almost 2022, 2021. It was I started to
Mm.
slow down a lot with DJing because of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
COVID essentially
That's what I
kind
was
of,
gonna say.
yeah, it took a massive hit on like the overall DJing scene, and so a lot
Yep.
of people actually resulted to streaming at the time. But like, you know now, saying all this, right, I'm now like 20, 21, 22, right? I told you like I got into music at like 9 years old. I felt like music was just something that I've done for such a long time that I wouldn't say I got bored of it, but it was more so of like,
Mm.
when you're a creator, or like if you truly are a creative at heart, like there's many ways to express your creativity,
Right.
like
Yeah.
for the first half of my life, I feel was just done through music. I feel like I've was able to convey my interest and what I like about music through that. And then comes COVID, where I slow down on music a lot, and I'm kind of left with like, dang, I have to make money. I kind of have to figure out something for
Mm.
myself, you know. And then out of nowhere, funny enough, I found about NFTs through an artist that I was working with and back in
Oh
like
wow.
2021. And
Oh
it was
shit.
he used to own like a couple Bored Apes back when Bored Apes was only around like $2,000 $5,000, so like
Yep.
super early.
Super early. Yeah,
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 yeah. And then little did I know like this would be the way that I would be onboarded. Was like I was so
yeah.
interested in just the phenomenon of like, this thing turning from $500 one day to eventually going to 10K.
Yep.
You're like, what the hell? Like I want to be a part of this, right? So yeah, like that's my onboarding story of how I transitioned from music into Web3 was like through music. Actually, it's funny, right? I actually found Web3 through
Yeah.
music. Um, so
But it's interesting though that you came here via NFTs, right? Because
yeah,
like in my case, it was via Dogecoin, for instance, right? Like I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
even know what I was doing. Like even for me back in, I think it was back in 2017, right? So one of my flatmates, he was like, "Do you know anything about Bitcoin?" Right? And I'm like, "I've heard about Bitcoin. I don't have any Bitcoin." But
yeah.
back then, because I didn't know shit about anything, right? I was like, I mean, I think back then it was like 15,000 Australian dollars per
Right,
Bitcoin.
right.
But I thought you were meant to buy the whole shit, one Bitcoin.
Ah,
Right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
you were
yeah.
meant to buy like $15,000 of
Oh
that.
my
And I'm
gosh.
like, dude, I mean, obviously, I mean, back then because I was, completing my master's degree, so kind of like in between jobs and studying and shit. So like the poor student life kind of thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
like, dude, like if you have 15K, you should give it a go. Like I don't know shit about that, but I'm pretty sure it's doing well. But I didn't even know, right?
Right,
And then
right.
after that, I got kind of hooked into that. Like I really wanted to know a little bit more. And then Dogecoin was all over the place, and I'm like, I need to fucking set up. I think it was Binance the first thing that I set
Yeah,
up,
yeah, yeah.
and so I sent some dollars here and there, and then I bought Dogecoin, and then I forgot about that shit, right? But it was via a meme coin, right? But
Right,
for you,
right.
it was via NFTs, even Bored Ape Yacht Club, and via the music as well, like your friend or the person you were working with. Yeah, pretty dope. Yep, yep.
Dude, and it's funny because now that I'm thinking about it, I used to like go to this dude's like on every Saturday I used to just like go to this guy's house and I would just clean up his house. Like it was like me
Mhm.
and like my cousins or something.
Yep.
And the guy who owned the house, I remember he would tell us about crypto. And this was
Mhm.
when I was like probably 13 or 14 years old. And I
So young.
remember,
Holy shit.
dude, I remember looking at the price of Bitcoin. Like I remember at the time, it was like $3,000 $5,000, and like
Mm.
Ethereum was like $200 $150.
Yeah, it was
And
the
like
beginning of Ethereum. Yeah.
exactly, but like dude, when you're 13 14, you're not thinking about like investments. I mean, unless you're freaking like whatever, the next Bill Gates or something. But like you know like you're thinking about I just want to freaking play video games, like I just want to have
Yeah.
fun. And like
Yep.
dude, now that I'm 10 years old, like now that I'm 24, I'm like, bro,
Mm.
if I can go back in time and just tell my 14-year-old self, like, bro, just buy $100 of like
Yeah.
Dogecoin or just like whatever at the time, like you would
Yep.
be
Yep.
filthy rich at like when you're 20, 24. But like,
I know.
that's the whole scenario. But yeah, man, yeah, yeah. So it's cool though. I agree. Like the intertwine between music and Web3. It's
Mm.
like I almost look at Web3 almost as like an artistic route sometimes, because like as a
Okay.
creator, like we always talk about building personal brands. We talk about building
Mm.
like our own platforms, and to stand out as a creator, you kind of need to be your own unique expression of who you are, right? So like that to me is a
Yep.
form of art. So yeah, like with music and everything that I kind of gained so far in my life, like this is who I feel like BAWSA is at the moment. It's like
Right.
I'm an all-around creative, but like I just like, at the end of the day, I think I just truly genuinely like helping people and just giving people like insights, giving people wisdom on like how they can improve their lives or like how they can get something going for themselves, you know.
Yeah.
And you can tell
But,
by a
but
lot of the content that I do today, it's around that.
yeah, for sure. But what I was gonna ask though, like once you get into Web3 2021, right? Like NFTs. Then I don't know if you remember there was a little bit of like music NFTs, people talking about that could be the next big thing, etc.
Right.
But then I don't know how you like the first thing that you did here, like were you just buying NFTs, jumping on Discords, getting to know the community, the vibes, and then I'm pretty sure there was some sort of aha moment for you where I'm assuming, holy shit, maybe I can do something more because I have this creative side of me, right? Maybe I
Right.
can do something more. I can start growing my Twitter account. I can start growing my personal brand. and I can do something more up until the point that, I mean, you're BAWSA, right? Like everyone knows that, well, besides being the founder of Shinsei, that maybe we can talk about that later on, you host spaces, people get to know you now as this kind of like new generation of KOLs, right? Like not the ones from 2021 or 2022, because I think this is your first cycle, like your real cycle going from bull to bear, etc. But yeah, like what were you doing? Like, would you seeking like the typical route, I would say, like being a moderator, then maybe a collab manager, a community manager, and then maybe scaling up a little bit, like most of the people that I've known in this space that even today, right, even they themselves have become founders of projects, or maybe they've become KOLs, right, or they become, which is interesting though. Like, so yeah, I guess.
Yeah, really quickly before I answer your question, like I'm just admiring this process from Cole.
Oh, dude,
like this is such a cool concept. I love how you're like, we're doing an interview, but then also in front of us is like the live process of, and you get to see it for like it, you know, live. Like, I think this is like such a cool concept. But yeah, anyways, like I love this. I love this. But
shout out to Cole, by the way.
Yeah, dude,
like,
shout out to Cole, bro. This guy's like crazy talented.
Honestly, yeah, it's insane, dude. We're honestly very blessed to have someone like Cole, you know, working for the Plooshies, part of the Plooshies. Because I mean, you know, like he's also a Poacher Penguin. He's done stuff for other communities as well. But the fact that he can create, you know, I keep saying is like magic. I don't know, or like just grab a plushie, come on, kind of like saying like, okay, maybe you can do this and that, and then he just like fucking. Yeah, it's insane.
Right. No, yeah. Going back to your question, I like when I first started, my first project, I don't know if you were around, Bogon, it was like, it's called Tasty Bones.
Oh yes, I do remember them. Yeah.
It was like back when Doodles was started to become really hype, and then all of a sudden it's like you see a derivative of like the same like theme of Doodles, where it's like this colorful palette, right? But anyways, it was like, it's called Tasty Bones, and that was my first NFT project that I got into. And not only just that, I remember the first hour of joining in, I automatically like got whitelisted, and I think it was just because of the way that I was just connecting and hanging out with everyone in the Discord, right? Because you know, back in Discords, if you were just that person that sends a form of genuinity from good vibes, you're just like connecting with people, you just want to get to know people, right? Like, I think because of that, it created this spark of community building interest, like for me, because for the longest time, right, like I've only looked at social media as like a way that we just showcase our lives, like, but like never did I look at it in a way where it's like we can use these platforms to build, like, bring people together. And so my first glimpse of online communities was through NFT communities, right? And because of that, I was like, yo, let me just stay active. Like, I want to, like, this is pretty cool to me, right? So what ended up being just like another one of those, like, you know, when you just grind a Discord for the whitelist spot, like, not only did I achieve that, but I was like, wait, I actually have like a somewhat of a fond interest of like building communities. And so I was so active into that Discord, to the point where the team behind Tasty Bones was like, yo, do you just want to become a Discord mod? Like, we'll pay you and everything, you know? And I was like, dude, say less. Like, I would absolutely freaking love to, you know? So I ended up becoming a moderator for that project. And through that, I just started kind of building a name for myself, right? I remember in my very early beginnings of like my X profile, I literally had, I believe, like, and it like builders of community or something like that, like project, like builder community, you know, like, you know how we like, you describe yourself, like it's in your bio, right? So like that was like one of the first things I had in my bio, was just like building communities for fun or some shit like that. And since then, from that moment on, I almost just applied to almost every project that I thought was interesting enough to me, and was like, hey, like, I would love to be your Discord moderator. Like, this is my past experience, this is who I worked with, right? So like I grinded it, like you were describing, right? Like from a moderator to then community manager, and then like I would be community manager for like this hype project. And so what happened was, all this attention from these hype projects, right? Like these guys that are really active in Discords, you would be interacting with these mods 9 times out of 10, you know? And because of this flywheel, this system that got built, it's like oh, people who like this moderator, does this guy have a Twitter? Does she or he have a, you know, like where can I connect with this guy? And so I started
100%.
building, exactly. So I started building my following through this like system that I didn't even know that I was building at the time, where it's like join hype project, become their Discord moderator, get attention through that, right? And then it's like everything funnels back to my personal platform at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you know? So that was kind of like my 2021 through 2022, like my first 2 years of Web3 was
Okay.
really just like, how can I just get my name out there? And I did it through moderating Discords a lot of the times. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you know what? I think that's just it's like the typical way of getting to know yourself, right?
Right, right.
'Cause it was pretty much the same thing for me, right? Like back in 2021, again, it's sort of like, okay, because I was working for an NGO back in Melbourne, and then obviously due to COVID, they cut my hours from 40 to 20. Then I need to figure out, okay, oh shit, I need to keep paying rent. I need to keep paying for a bunch of stuff. I need to find a way to make money out of this shit, right? But back then, I used to be a community organizer. So I thought, okay, maybe I can bring those sort of soft skills to this industry, right? But also, I was dabbling a little bit with, building Discords and kind of like figuring out like using bots and Discord security and shit. Because I
Yeah,
quickly
yeah.
realized how fucking easy it was for people to just scam people by sending a link. Just
Oh
because
yeah.
the Discord was, the setup back then was pretty fucking shit, and people were losing a bunch of money, right? So I was just sort of like, okay, I need to figure out how to do this and that, and I was jumping from Discord to Discord, like grinding, and like yourself, right? With Tasty Bros, like if the team sees you like pretty much 24/7, they will offer you something, and then you funnel that activity to your personal account. Because even back then, right, like
Exactly. Exactly.
moving from your web to Twitter account, the one that I don't even use anymore, I didn't even use it, right, like a lot, and then kind of like having to create a new one and starting from zero and getting those followers, and then
Yeah.
working with different projects, getting to know people from other projects and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of like the path that I've seen. Now that I know that you've done that, I've done that as well. Some other people have done that. Like I would say fucking more than 50-60% of people have done that. Then you see like the collab manager cabal, the community managers cabal.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Oh
Dude,
yeah.
especially with collab managers, right? Because it was so fucking profitable. Like if you were working for a high project and you know token gating, who's gonna be able to give you money and maybe sell that shit in the black market? And oh my goodness, insane.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. And like my favorite thing though, like when I look back at like the first couple years, or like at least the last NFT run,
mm,
was just like there was this audience that just had a pure fandom of like IP
yeah,
and like just really cool art. And like I really want to not like bring that back, because I think it's such a key component of what makes NFTs cool nowadays. But
mm,
like if moving forward that we can see more current existing projects and newer projects really lean in to the importance of just making sure the art and the IP itself like is of quality, and that alone can almost build your own
yeah,
audience. Like that's what I want the space to lean into, because I feel like a lot of times in the space we get so caught up in just like speculation and hype and how we can draw attention that we see this lack of attention or focus on the actual product itself, that there's not enough effort or detail into the product, so like I personally just want to see that from projects moving forward, is like how can we just bring that visual appeal back to NFTs without having to drive speculation and hype all the time,
yeah.
so yeah, it's stuff like that. It just makes me think a lot, but
And
yeah.
that's such a very good point there, because I mean we've seen how things have kind of transitioned and let's say changed a bit since 2021 to like 2024. Like, there's only a fraction of projects who've lasted that long. And honestly, like 2021 to 24 is not
Yeah.
even that long. Like honestly, building a brand it takes so fucking long. But the nature of the space, everything moves so fucking fast here. But 21 to 2024, it's 3 to 4 years. Some of them are still here. Some of them with a decent floor price. Even without a decent floor price, they still have an active community as well. They're pretty loud on social media. They've been doing a bunch of stuff, but the attention is not there for them, I would say, because it's always the new shiny
Right.
shit.
Right.
So I guess what I wanted to
Yeah.
ask though, like, what has been the biggest change you've seen since like being in 2021 as BAWSA, the Discord moderator, then the community manager, to 2024, where you've transitioned to being able to funnel a lot of these people who follow you because of the opinions that you give out loud, whether that be, when you're hosting spaces or simply like, posting on Twitter, then building your own, brand as well, not just your personal brand, but your project, which is Shinsei. Because there's been too
Right.
many things, right? So I guess I kind of want to know, like, when was that aha moment? Okay, I need to do something more. Maybe I'm gaining enough attention. Maybe I see spaces will be the next meta for a bunch of projects. I want to be part of that because it was just brick by brick. But then suddenly on Fungible with Leon and the others, we're like, I want to bring BAWSA here. Everyone is pretty much aware of who on Fungible are, the team working for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of like, okay, maybe, I don't know, like if you were feeling a bit stagnant and you were like, you know what, fuck this shit, I need to do something more. I need to bring my creative. I need this creative freedom, and this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I love this. I love this question. Like, I would say Spaces has been my best bet I've ever made on
Okay.
myself because, like, well, one, at the time, I didn't know Spaces has been around since like 2021 because, like, there's people like Leap who has, and again, it's funny enough, I don't even know the true history of like legends like Leap, but from what I've been told, he used to co-host like Ryan Carson Spaces, and I believe Ryan Carson
Yeah.
at the time, back when like 2021 was huge, like he was a pretty big like KOL or influencer, right? But a lot of these people, like Ryan Carson, has now left this space, and this kind of brings me to my point here with your question is like, I think the biggest difference that I've noticed from like then and now, and I feel like this goes to anything that's really, really early and that is really new to the world, is that there's a lot of people that are like just here to extract, right? And sometimes they disguise themselves as people who really want to help you, or like they'll say that they're building an X product for Web3 or NFTs, and then a year or two later they're completely vanished from the space, right? So I feel like in anything early, there's this process of like a bunch of people that are just fake, and they're not really here for what maybe the intent truly is, and they're just here to make money. Like, there's that period of kind of filtering out, okay, this person is true to themselves and this person on the other hand is not really, right? So the people who've been here since 2020 and maybe even longer, right, they already have their list of people that are real, people that are genuine, people that are actually here for the goodness of Web3. And then there's the other side of that list where there's people that are just truly grifters, truly pure scammers, right? And that's just the unfortunate reality of this space. But I bring this up because that's what I felt like has happened from 2020 till now. 4 years later, is just essentially a lot of the people who stuck true to themselves are now like truly receiving all the support and opportunities that they deserve. And we kind of got rid, or in our minds at least, we've painted the pictures of people that are actually bad and they don't really contribute anything into this space, So I guess you can describe this as kind of like a sense of like maturity, in a sense, where we started to treat this space more with respect, and we actually hold ourselves to a certain guideline or a certain standard, right? You have people like exactly, like you have people like Zach XBT who are literally exposing people like left and right on what they do behind the scenes, and so that's what I think is one of the biggest differences right now, is like you can really tell who's true and who's really themselves and who's actually here to help, versus like people that are just like, yeah, I'm just here to make money, and like I'll do that in the most sometimes like harmful ways towards other people to get what I want, So Web3 is truly like, it's a massive playground still at the end of this day, but it's funny because it feels so big, but we're so small at the same time, right? Like we almost all share the same audience, and we don't realize that until we see the same people show up to the same spaces that we attend on other people's platforms, So yeah, like I think just to answer that question, I think that's probably the biggest thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree more with that. Like, honestly, we've seen so many people coming up with, it's like the same kind of Web2 scams. They just bringing them here and then taking advantage of
Yeah.
they growing their personal accounts, right? And we've seen
Mhm.
for so many years that it's so easy to grow your account here because I mean it's a money driven industry. So if you start posting your P&Ls and kind of like quote unquote you're the alpha giver, whether that be for NFTs or for fucking shit coins and stuff, like you're giving people money, right?
Right.
And you can grow your account so quickly that way. But then you see some people pivoting immediately to creating their own shit and kind of grifting the community that they thought they were building. And you were like, dude, why are
Yeah.
you doing this? I thought you were one of the good ones, right? But eventually they would just post the fucking wallet, send money here, and then let's see how it goes, right? Like we've seen that so many
Yeah.
times. But yeah, I wanted to go back to that aha moment for you, like when you're like, okay, Spaces is gonna be my thing.
Right.
I want to do that. I've been growing my account for quite some time, whether that be because you were working with Tasty Bros and perhaps some other projects as well, and people were just following you because of the stuff that you say online, right? People didn't even know that you were doing music beforehand. You were just focusing on
Yeah.
what can I do in Web3, and you were just, I guess, paying a bunch of attention, like figuring out what could be the next meta. Obviously, networking with the right people as well, because that helps you like boost your engagement. If the
Right.
right people like you, or comment or retweet or whatever, then you keep growing and growing and growing. So yeah, that hard moment, because I don't even know when was your first to the Spaces. Like, how long ago was that? Right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because now that I'm thinking about it, like we actually just met
Yeah,
this year, you know. But dude, time flies, bro. I feel like I've known you
I
forever.
know.
um, but I think my aha moment, man, I think it goes back to what I was saying. Like the opportunity that I saw with Spaces was like it was such a there was like I feel like a lack of an organic, genuine space in Web3 because a lot of the times, right, people listen to Spaces
Yeah,
for alpha, and I think that's where Spaces kind of got like its notoriety. It was like you would get these big KOLs, these big influencers onto a space, and all of a sudden they would start saying tickers or they would start speculating on a new collection that's coming out, right? And that brings attention, that brings eyes onto a project, and people started paying for that type of marketing, you know? But like for me, I just realized that there's just not enough of just like honest conversations in Web3 alone. You know, like conversations that don't even sometimes have to do anything related to the tech or what we say about blockchain, right? And it's more so of like connecting with individuals, getting to know people, just like, you know, having that more, I guess, intimate conversations, right? And so I saw that as an opportunity, which is where kind of brick by brick got created, right? And I say this all the time to like remind people, brick by brick is essentially the visual representation of what it's like to be building your own dreams or building your own life, right? Is like every single day we're given the chance to just become one step closer to where we want to be, right? So I look at that as we're laying down bricks to build like an empire, to build a castle, you know? And so and eventually at one point of our lives we're gonna look back and we're gonna see the creation that we made, right? And you're either, you know, so proud of what you built, or you're like, damn, like I wish I could have done this better. I wish I could have done this, you know, a little bit more differently, right? But the whole point is it like a brick by brick is just to visualize and represent that idea for like young people like myself that want to be successful in their lives, you know, or honestly just pursue your passion, whatever it is. Like that's the whole point. And so me taking that leap of creating brick by brick, and on top of that making it a Spaces, right, it really allowed myself to connect with my audience on a like deeper level now, because now they know my voice, right? Like and one, we're having like today on the street, we're having a conversation, and right, so I've always just valued that idea of conversations and what and how much impact it can really do with brands and people, you know. And so I stuck with that, and it's still going on to this day, brick by brick, and actually have one tomorrow. But anyways, like after 6 months of doing brick by brick, all of last year in 2023, October came around, which is funny, it's like almost like a full year now. October, November came around, and this is where Leon from Unfungible reached out to me, and we hopped on a call, and he started to explain to me like his whole business idea of essentially doing spaces
Yeah.
as a service. Because I think Leon one day he tuned into my spaces and he just really enjoyed like the conversation, the way that I was just conducting the host gig, right? And he was like, yo, like there's a potential like to do this for other brands, like brands that see this as a value, right? And so I ended up working very early with Leon, Kermit, and Vincenzo at the time, and it was just four of us at a Fungible at one point. And you know, and that's what kind of skyrocketed my growth, because now my brand started getting attached to these gaming projects or these hyped projects in general. And you know, and when you're hosting these massive mint party spaces or these big community town halls, right, like that, again, it's an attention economy,
Yep.
right? So with this new attention, it all funneled to my brand BAWSA, and I became, you know, now known as like that spaces host guy, the one that does all these spaces, you know. So yeah, that's like my aha moment of like in my career
Which
so
is
far.
pretty dope, because every now and then, even I send you via DMs, right? Like suddenly I found something on YouTube with you and Leon having a combo that happened fucking 6 months ago, right? And I'm like, holy shit, that's Barca, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool there, and I think Leon nailed that business business model, right? Like we've used that service as well as the Plooshies. That's how we got to know each other, like initially, right? Like you hosting spaces for the Plooshies for a month and a half, and then from then we continue to getting to know each other, like becoming friends and stuff. But it's just so cool to see how there's certain people from Unfungible that I know now, right? Like obviously there are people working behind the scenes, people like yourself, like Kelano, for instance. Andrew has done a bunch of stuff as well. I think Ice is one of the new guys as well. So like Leon is finding these people who perhaps are not that big just yet, but with a bunch of potential and with different skill sets as well. Like the spaces that I've been with you, or with even Jack, for instance, that's another one. They're so different, right? Like they're just so different, like because that's your personality. And then you kind of get to see like, oh, I really fuck with this guy or with this other guy. I really like the way they conduct the questions, the host, their guests as well. Yeah, I love that. And I guess that's when, yeah, like you said, your growth skyrocketed, right? Because you were not just attached to Brick by Brick, something that you were doing, which is your own platform, which is entirely different. Like for people who don't know, who haven't attended one of your spaces, it's so different to the ones that you host for Unfungible and these other brands. Like for Unfungible and these other brands is a little bit more serious, getting to bring attention to that particular project, asking the right questions. It's a little bit more formal, but also with your touch. But Brick by Brick it's evolving a little bit from those early days, I would say, but it's still you. Right? Like people can see like, yeah, that's still BAWSA. And I mean, I guess kudos to you, because it's been really interesting to see that growth, because I'm pretty sure I attended a bunch of your spaces brick by brick. I didn't used to like hop on stage or like jump on stage and give my opinion and such. But now it's just like I really enjoy that as well, right? Like just because you get to see the same people, right? Like you vibe with the same people, the same community. People actually value your takes too. Yeah, it's just fun. It's nice. It's one of those things that it's kind of like if you were to explain to your normie friends, how does your day look like, right? When you're working in Web3, whether that be with your brand, with your project, or because you're DJing a little bit, whether that be with shitcoins or trading other stuff.
Right.
But Twitter Spaces is such a big thing, right? Like we will always mention that, right? And then try to explain that to normies, and they're like, so you're sitting on your PC just giving your takes about whatever, and then you're like, yeah, because I mean a bunch of us have been in the space for quite a while, so people will try to they appreciate your takes, because you're quote unquote you're onboarding new people as well. You're trying to educate people on a bunch of different things in the best possible way, right? Like you're not always going to be right. You will always find someone who's way smarter than you, and that's what spaces are for. And I love that. And yeah.
No, absolutely. And dude, I just want to say I wholeheartedly agree with you, bro. Like, there's such this lack I feel sometimes with people just people connecting with people,
Mm,
right? And like this space at times can be super transactional
yeah.
with everything, right? Like it's why a lot of these creators
Mm,
or KOLs, they'll support projects, right? They'll post content about you, but it's always in exchange of a dollar bill or some form of money, right? And look, that's just the nature of the business. I think that's just what it is, right? But there also is, I feel, is just a lack of friendship or just
mm,
relationship building with these brands and creators, you know? So that's why whenever a project reaches out to me for
mm,
advice or anything, my biggest thing I tell them all the time is like, look, like, don't focus on extraction right away. Like, genuinely make efforts to create a connection with the
yeah.
culture of this space. Like, hop on spaces, talk to these guys, like, get to know your people, like, actually get to know them, you know? And like, that to me is the most probably number one way to build an organic community or like an organic audience is like getting to the deep roots of these people that show up to your spaces or that show up to your Discord and like really making the effort to connect. Cause that to me is like when I see that from a founder, if I see that from a team, I'm like, yo, like these guys are like, they know what they're not only one, do they know what they're doing, but like two, like they're real, genuine people.
Yeah.
And we need that, you know? So yeah, that's what I feel is just lacking a lot of times in this space, man. Is like I just feel there's no like honesty. There's not enough
Mm.
like genuinely interest in people, you know? So yeah, that's like that's something that I hope to see change in the near future,
And
Web3.
I guess without naming names, right? Like maybe you can give me what has been your favorite space that you've hosted, whether that be with Brick by Brick, right? Or with Unfungible and hosting other brands. And maybe one of those
Yeah.
spaces that you were like, oh shit, maybe I kind of wasted my time. Maybe it was because I didn't do my, my job pretty well, or maybe the guests weren't that pretty good at what they were saying. Obviously, without naming names, but lessons to be learned from that, right? Because of course, growing as well as a
Yeah.
as a host, I mean, you're getting very very good at it. So yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, dude, there's like without even naming names, there's just so many scenarios where I felt like, oh my god, like I could have done so much better with this space, or like, dang, like that was such an awkward question. Why did I just ask that right now? You know? Um, but like, yeah, there's even been times where like I hosted like a really big mint party one day, and then like I made this really like I thought was like a funny, dumb,
wow,
sarcastic joke, and then like people in the audience took it the wrong way, and then like I started like reading the comments of the space, and people were just like, "Bro, what is this host
on
talking
the
about?
way.
Like this guy sounds like an idiot," you know? But like it was, anyways, like it was just like it was such a like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, like I need to check myself sometimes. But yeah, there's like so many
yeah,
scenarios, bro. But here's the thing, man, is like I think that's cool. It like not that it's cool to make mistakes, but it's just like this is where once again, like Web3 likes to promote such success and W's all the time, right? Because that's what brings engagement, you know. But like no one's ever gonna really come forward about their L's or like show you, even on a space where you fuck up
yeah,
live and you say something stupid, right? Like this is like the real human side of just
yeah,
the nature of what it's like to be doing this shit, you know? And so I feel like we only look at things through a certain lens, but we don't open, like we don't take off those glasses at times and look at other angles of this
yeah,
space, you know? So that's why again, like my whole rant with this conversation just so far has just been like wishing there's just a more honest Web3, you know? And funny enough, I think that's just gonna be my topic for tomorrow's Brick by Brick, is just like really highlighting like what's wrong with Web3 and like building a more honest Web3. Like how can we just be more genuine with one another here,
yeah.
you know?
I think
So yeah, man, like
yeah, I was gonna
yeah,
say,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
think that's such a it's so true because people tend to think or people tend to see like your big wins, right? And then they tend to forget that you
Mm,
went through a really rough journey where you go up and down. And I wanted to mention, like, I was just checking your timeline, right? And I saw that you lost 100 soul in a trade, right? Which is a fuck ton of money, right? Like it
Yeah.
is a lot of money though. But sharing those experiences and trying to hold yourself accountable with that, right? I'm letting people know, like, I mean, I'm doing a bunch of different stuff. Sometimes I take big wins, but sometimes I take big L's as well. And I want to learn from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And maybe I can provide you with some sort of feedback on how not to fuck up with that, right? Because
Right.
I mean,
Right.
100 soul might be, the 5 soul for someone else, right? Because maybe that's just what they can get, and if they lose 5 soul, then that's the end of it, right? Um, but for you, which is different, obviously. But yeah, those, what I want to say is, like, yeah, showing that side of you. I think that's why people really connect with you. Like, maybe they're like, yes, I know that BAWSA is this KOL, but also he's a truly genuine guy that I can have just a normal convo, because you really open as well your spaces to everyone, right? To just give their opinions, just let them rant, let them yap and
Right.
which is
Right.
cool though. Like, you don't really get to see that a lot in a bunch of spaces where there's only just gonna be the host, the co-host, and the friends, right? It's always them, right? Like,
Exactly.
they will never let people jump in, or if they jump in, they will just, hear their take for like a couple of minutes, and then that's it, and then they will never go back again.
Right.
And it's a bit
Yeah.
daunting as well if you've never been on spaces and you kind of want to go up there and give your take, and then you see these people like they're just talking to each other. Maybe you're not part of that community just yet, whereas with you, you're just like so welcoming, which is really dope, and I really like that about Break. But yeah, again, just showing that, right? Like, showing your L's, showing the
Yeah.
path that you've been taking to get to where you are, because perhaps someone out there might be looking to do maybe the same thing as you, right?
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And that's just how I kind of look at content in general nowadays, is like, how relatable can you
Mm.
be, with your page and who you are? Because I think that's like the strongest form of connection, is like the moment you relate to someone's issues, or you share an experience that this person could also be
Mm.
going through, like, and you speak it for them. Because 9 times out of 10, right, we don't share a lot of these L's because maybe we'll feel
Yeah.
embarrassed, or maybe we'll feel like, we'll look like an idiot on the
Mm.
timeline. But like, maybe by doing so, you become the voice for these people who won't speak up for themselves, and maybe you can hopefully inspire them to find the
Right.
courage to start being more transparent like this, and share stories like that. So yeah, man, like, that's why, I don't know, I always will appreciate spaces and streams
Mm.
like today, because this right here is another example of having an intimate, genuine conversation with one another, right? And whether that's 10 of us on the stream, 500 of us in the space, right? Like, when people can feel that and when people can hear that, they, all of a sudden you have a different connection now to a certain brand or to a certain
Right.
person,
Right.
because now you're painted in their heads like, this guy is like, he has good conversations, or like, hey, I just genuinely appreciate what they
Yeah.
talked about today, so yeah,
even
yeah,
even the fact of saying, like, this person is real, right? It's not just the JPEG, it's not just
right,
the brand that they're representing or whatever. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Maybe I just kind of wanted to reset the room a little bit, because we've been watching Cole for a
yeah,
bit, creating this really
yeah.
dope
For
plushie with
sure.
some Shinsei traits. We can talk about Shinsei in a little bit though, but Cole, maybe you want to explain what you've been doing for the past 30-40 minutes, because that's a really cool plushie. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this is looking crazy.
I don't really know what I'm doing. That's the thing. But trying to make some sort of helmet. But I think it's going good. I'll do a little top part here, and then yeah, onto texturing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
he's looking cool.
Hell yeah.
But so yeah, you've been taking inspo from Shinsei, which is BAWSA's project on Solana, by the way. So yeah, BAWSA, do you wanna tell us a little bit about that? Like, when did you? Because you've been hosting spaces, right? Like, we've set the tone that
Yeah.
spaces has been your thing, growing your personal brand with brick by brick, then with Unfungible and stuff, and getting to know you because you were hosting spaces. for multiple brands, right? Like I don't even know if all of those brands that you hosted spaces for are still here today, or they're still doing stuff. But then you were like, okay, maybe I want to do something. Maybe I want to bring my own, sauce to fucking Web3 in terms of bringing my own NFT project. Um, and then you
Right.
chose something that you're really close to, which is, this Gundam sort of style and the stuff that you like. And then you wanted to bring that to Web3. You chose Solana. You chose, that specific art. So yeah, tell us a little bit, because honestly, I don't really know much about Shinsei, other than the art looks pretty
Right.
fucking
Right.
dope, and that you are one of the top guys in that project.
Right. Well, honestly, you mentioned one of the most like key inspirations for what created Shinsei, and it's Mobile Suit
Mm.
Gundam, right? And like, I don't know if you've watched the anime before, Bogon. Even if you didn't, like, it's all good. But Gundam to me was like, as a kid, the like my favorite mecha show
Right.
ever, right? Or just like not even just mecha. It's like my favorite
Mm.
IP, just because of how cool it was to me, you know. Um, and so because of that, excuse me, and because of that, I wanted to have that same effect, that same emotional appeal with
Mm.
Shinsei. And that's actually where a lot of my inspiration come from, is like this idea of mechas, or like these pilots piloting these big robots going against each other, right? Excuse me, I had
Okay,
something
okay,
stuck in my
bro.
throat. You're good. And so this is also when AI was starting to become a huge thing, and there was this thing called
Yeah.
Midjourney. I don't know if you messed with it before, Bogan, but like for those that don't know, Midjourney is like this AI generative bot. You feed it prompts, right? And then it'll produce you images based on those prompts, right? And I remember at the time I started messing around with like anime prompts, because I was like, I want to see what type of images Midjourney can produce. And I was like, okay, I like Gundam, I like robots. Let me see if I can do something cool with this. And so excuse me, I started like messing around with like Mobile Suit Gundam like standing on a mountain, or like Mobile Suit Gundam standing in a city with people surrounding it, right? And all of a sudden Midjourney would produce these crazy images that I thought was so cool. And to this day, I think that's like something I'm so glad I really leaned into, because I think that's what a lot of people like my content for, is when I do these like AI generative images that showcase the brand that I'm trying to build around Shinsei. And through Midjourney, I was able to build this narrative around pilots, mechas, like, and I don't think we were following each other at the time, but at the very or middle of last year, I started this concept called world building, right? And it was essentially like these prompts that I would feed into Midjourney, where I would describe this vast world, or like showcase a planet that's so far off in the distant, and like, you know, really just trying to curate this world that I'm trying to showcase people of like Shinsei. And so that's what I was that's what kind of Shinsei is, right? I want this to be a very heavily creative IP, where it's set on like nostalgic IP that you already probably seen in the past, aka pilots, Gundam, big robots, right? But now you're kind of seeing it with this new intersection of blockchain and NFTs, where you own assets, where your pilot that you own, which is the NFT, by the way, your IP can be a part of the story in Shinsei, you know? So like that's the digital side of our product. But the more tangible side of Shinsei is like we're just now like working on our first fashion line release that we're going to be launching soon. And what's cool about it is we've already done our first test batch of like clothes, and so far the community and the people who've received it so far, like they love it. Like people are posting on the timeline, and like what's crazy is like we haven't even like told anyone like, hey, like go post this, or like honestly done any marketing around it. And this is just from people that have genuine support for the brand, you know? And so like it's stuff like this where I'm trying to tackle the digital experience and like the physical experience of what NFTs can offer, but obviously you can't do both at the same time. I feel like you have to really cement the brand that you're building first in Web3, and then once you have that cemented here, then you can kind of go start testing out, you know, Web2 activations, right? But aside from that point, like the whole narrative around Shinsei that I'm trying to build is like, this is going to be kind of like the Gundam for Web3, because Gundam is so massive and big in Web2, but there's no Gundam yet for Web3, and I really want Shinsei to be that go-to IP for it.
Amazing. That's so cool, though. And I'm obviously, now that you're like in sitting in this founder seat, you can relate a lot more with the founders that you've been hosting in spaces, right? Now you can see how hard it is to build that community, sustain that community, build your brand, whether that be, you know, not your personal brand, but the brand that you are building, right? And obviously your personal brand, you can empathize a little bit with them because you know how hard it is. And what's been your biggest lesson now that you're an NFT founder? Something that maybe you've seen of you taking from other people that you've hosted before, that you can relate to and that you can bring to your own project. How can you improve? Whether that be, because I mean, as a founder, I guess as the CEO of this company that you're building, you know, even, you know, picking the right people to work with you, it's not an easy thing as well. So yeah, what are those lessons that maybe you want to share with other people who are maybe dabbling with the idea of, oh, you know what, maybe I do want to bring something into Web3 via NFTs, and, you know, taking this route that a lot of us have taken, right? We've done that with the Plooshies as well, right? Like building the brand, building the community, building this beautiful IP, letting people to know who the team is, right? So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and like, honestly, just to kind of make things clear first, so the CEO should say is Matt, right? And then I know my title is like co-founder, but like, in all honesty, like I'm more of like the creativity, like all creative focused push of Shinsei. So like, if I were to replace co-founder or if I were to add to that title, it's kind of like creative director, you know, because I feel like co-founder is kind of more of like, you know, maybe admin, or maybe you do more of like the whole oversee of the brand, right? But for me, man, I'm so focused on just like creatively pushing the IP that like that's my thing, you know. But I just want to make that clear. But anyways, like going back to what you're saying, right? Like my biggest lesson so far that I think I've learned was like, it is so important to just have leadership skills, like as a founder, because, you know, especially if you're the person that one represents the IP in your profile picture, right? Or if you're the person that's hosting these community events in the Discord, and you're like, my whole point is like, if you're the voice of a brand, kind of like how Luca Nets is to Pudgy, right? Fraying D-Gods is to D-Gods. Maybe you, Bogon, you're the Luca for the plushies, or for Plooshies, right? So I think every brand needs that in this space. Every project needs their own Luca Nets. Every project needs their own Fraying D-Gods. And so I feel like, although yes, I'm like creatively focusing on pushing the brand, my platform of like being a space host, being a content creator, being all these things, right? I represent a lot of that for Shinsei, you know? And so to really put that all though in a big bundle and really display that from a leadership perspective, like that's what keeps the IP alive sometimes, right? Like I know we've been in spaces together where people will share takes that your community is such a huge, it's the lifeline of your project, and I agree. But that lifeline is only sustainable and reliant so much on the founder themselves, because if the founder isn't excited or isn't like active in the Discord talking with their community, right? Which honestly, this past year, like I've learned to have better time management skills, because one, I've done so many spaces in one day before where I wouldn't have time to be in the Discord with Shinsei or like talk to the community members like that, right? So, you know, maybe I can add that to my list of lessons, but it's still under the same umbrella of like, as a founder, it's so important to have, one, showcase leadership, and two, really show that through these actions that you do, whether that's by hosting events, hosting spaces, bringing the community together, right? Like you really need to embody that leader that these founders or that these projects need, right? And I feel like once you get into the hang of things, you know, like yes, it's pretty daunting at times because you feel like you'll constantly have to deliver something, but that's just again the nature of the game, right? Like Luca has done this for such a long time now, and look where Pudgy is now, you know. So again, like build your first 100 true fans, and you know it starts off though by being a great leader, you know. So that's probably my biggest
That's
lesson.
a good one though. But you know, I've been thinking about this for quite a while as well though, because we tend to, you know, when you were saying Pudgy Penguins equals Luca Nets, right? D-Gods equals Frank D-Gods. Let's say the Plague equals Pons, for instance, right? Jiro-san equals Shan, right? So it's like putting so much pressure into just one particular person. But I think when you know that the community is very, very strong, that you don't really, really rely on just one main figure, I think that's when the community and the project can evolve into something else, right? Because we've seen multiple times as well that if asking that the active should be fucking active all the time, right? Like the founder also has to do a bunch of stuff in Web 2 related to the business side of things. And asking that they need to be hella active in Web 3, whether that be in spaces, in Discord, in events and shit. Like being that main figure could be kind of like a double-edged sword as well. Because if for whatever reason this main guy is not there anymore, right? Then the community can feel like, oh, holy shit, especially here in Web3, right? Like they're rocking us. They don't know what they're doing. Why are they not active? Why are they not pumping my bags by being active? So I think one of the things that I've seen is kind of like finding that healthy and kind of perfect balance. Because if you rely a lot on just one main figure and when they're gone for X, Y, or Z reason, then things can go south really quickly, especially with, you know, those people who are relying on this guy that they need to post something related to the project so they can pump my backs, right? And then you see a lot of fraud, you see a lot of negativity within the community, and then it starts spreading like fucking wildfire. So yeah, I've been thinking about that because sometimes you see that with projects, right? Like we saw that with, well, Frank Digos was pushing for that, right? Like he was pushing like, send it to zero. You don't even know what the fuck am I doing? Yes, I'm in the trenches with my boys. You know, I'm part of this cabal. But then when I know that I'll push for something, then the flow will pump, and that's what happened, right? But then when you see them not that active or talking a little bit more about their project, then the flow dumps a little bit, right? So it's really tricky though. Like I don't think we've seen. I think perhaps I would say that if Luca, for whatever reason, right, he stops doing what he's doing for a little bit, just taking some time off, I still think the community is one of the strongest ones, if not the strongest one. That it doesn't really matter if Luca is not going to be active, right? Because maybe they can rely on their community leaders, not just the one working for the Pudgy Penguins, but the community in itself, or even on someone else, right? Like Lorenzo or like Peter, right? Like you have all these big figures working for the Pudgy Penguins. That if someone like Luca, like I said, leaves for a little bit, it wouldn't, you know, perhaps the floor price will dump a little bit, but not a lot, right? Like we've seen with other projects. But yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like, what do you reckon?
No, like, and I agree because like it's funny when I think about this because remember when NFTs had the massive like sell off from like the peak hype, where almost every community or project that launched in 2021 was being battle tested to the freaking max to like really see how strong the community is, right? Like I remember Azuki facing the most amount of backlash because of Zag's history, right? And then when you remember, I think his name was Cole Ethereum, another Cole. He used to own Pudgy first. Like he was the first like person who started Pudgy, and then Luca Nets came in, bought the IP out of him, right? And then the rest is history, you know? So like there's so many stories of how a lot of these projects kind of came to the rise of where they are today, you know? But if you look through it, right, they just went through every single obstacle with the community they had at that moment, right? So maybe when Luca was acquiring Pudgy for the first time, maybe Pudgy was still filled with a bunch of Jeters, people who didn't have diamond hands, right? And that people that weren't even really supporting the project, right? So they went through this cleansing period of just getting people that weren't even interested to then now having literally a cult-like community of penguins that I agree, even without Luca having to be active, it almost kind of doesn't matter anymore because you have so many big KOLs or creators that represent the Pudgy at such a high level of that brand that like Luca almost doesn't need to be active, but he still is, and that's perfect. And I think that's why like it remains this way because Luca continues to keep the brand alive by being active, you know? So that's where, again, it's like this flywheel that gets built over time where it's like the more you just get loyal and organic, genuine supporters for your brand, right? They're going to show up. Like naturally, they're going to show up, you know? We just have to figure out as founders is like, how can we make this system grow like, or like, how can we scale this system? You know, like how can we continue to make, you know, people interested in the brand without having to force experiences, you know, in their way or such, you know? But nonetheless, like, yeah, like I think what you said is a very great point about the current state of like leaders and founders in Web3. So
I think it would be really interesting to see who could kind of replicate that sort of thing, right? Us look at it, right? Because even back then, right, like back in 2021 when there was a bunch of fraud related to, you know, to the Pudgy Penguins with how Cold Ethereum was managing the whole thing, and then when Luca acquired the Pudgy Penguins, even the floor price back then it went below 1 ETH for quite a while.
I did.
January to March of 2022 down to 0.9 0.8 ETH, which was still a lot of money back then, right? But it was below 1 ETH. And then a lot of the OG community, you know, kind of rallied up and they were like, fuck this shit. We're going to keep buying the Penguins. We believe in Luca. And you kind of need those guys. But I don't think it would be easy to replicate that because it was, you know, 2021, a bunch of OG crypto native people were already part of that community. So I think something that was really smart from Luca, besides obviously buying the IP, the contract, and you know the NFTs, the community, the existing community, the people that were there. Like I think that was also one of the aha moments for Luca, in my opinion, right? Like I know that I can bring this to the IP, but also I know that I can rely on the community, the existing community, because I know who these people are. As an OG crypto native as well, which is something that we haven't really seen in other big communities. I mean, CryptoPunks is entirely different. Bored Yacht Club has gone through a bunch of different things. Azuki has managed to gather a bunch of, you know, Asian whales and creative people and, you know, artists and stuff. It's just kind of like identifying who's going to be there when people are going to be funding your project, right? Like, I feel like every single big project has to go through that phase for them to be able to be tested, right? Like battle tested. Like if you survive this shit, then that's a very strong community, and the IP will continue to grow.
No, 100%. And you know, it makes me think like if we do have another NFT run, you know, and let's say like the current established projects from the 2021 cycle, obviously they're going to have their run, but I wonder from like today's projects that got released, which ones are going to be on top of like this cycle today, you know, because again, it's such a speculative, you know, industry that we operate in. But like, I also would say and add that I think the audience here in Web3 has definitely matured in a sense. Like we're now starting to appreciate projects that actually have a real product and like versus projects that really don't have anything but an NFT to offer, you know? So like if we can have that same lens and that perspective, then I think we would start appreciating and supporting projects where they are pushing actual real products versus just like everything is just hype and speculation, you know? So hopefully within time we really get to see that get achieved. But I don't know, maybe I'm just too optimistic.
Yeah, dude. I mean, someone needs to keep, the bullishness in this space, right? Because I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
us, are
yeah.
holding a bunch of NFTs, like yourself, got onboarded via your NFT. So that's sort of like your main thing for you. Whether if you're in the trenches or not, I think yes, you are. We've seen your posts. Um, but yeah, it's sort of
Right.
like, okay, filtering out a bunch of bullshit that we've seen for so long, and even supporting those projects, like whether you hold an NFT or not, you support the people who's behind that, right? Because it will lift your
Right.
project eventually as well. Like that's something that, for instance, we've seen with the Plooshies, right? The fact that we have a bunch of support from the Pochi Penguins, from the Campe Pandas community. They saw something in the
Hell yeah.
team, the IP, and the stuff that we've been delivering, like slowly but surely. They're like, I'm happy to support these guys, right? Like truly believe in what they're doing. Even the fact that we got invited to Abstract, like I keep getting DMs from other founders and friends, like, how do you get into Abstract? Like, how do I get that, right? And I'm like, dude, like honestly,
Right.
like
Right.
it's sort of like we didn't know, like there's a fucking form that you need to fill, right? But Luca invited us personally, and that's because he's got history with, the co-founders, because they're all Penguins.
Hell
He's
yeah.
got history with Cole, right? I've got history with like sub communities of the Pachi Penguins that I'm part of, and people know me as well, right? So it was kind of like getting that validation from someone like Luca, like, let's just help you with your brand. Like obviously him pointing out like there's a bunch of stuff that you need to kind of fix, but I can help you with that. So that's really reassuring, and be like,
Right.
holy shit, okay, now we got this personal support from Luca and the Abstract team for us to be able to bring the vision of the Plooshies, right? So yeah, it's just it's cool to see that that some other guys can provide you the feedback, and honestly listening to that feedback, right? Because they've done it before you, so they
Yeah.
know how to do that. So it's sort of
Yeah.
like with open arms. Whatever you think we should be changing, just give us that feedback, and we'll pivot. And having that trust from people like them, but also from our community, right? Because I mean, I guess now we're not a really old new project, sorry, because we minted back in 23, which is quite a one, especially here in Web3, right? Like Q1 2023, and we're literally now Q4 2024. We're like,
So
it moves
fast.
so fucking fast, bro. But yeah, like honestly, without the community, like you're pretty much gone. Like honestly, like there's nothing you can do. Like again, because like you said, right? Like we're in such a speculative fucking industry that even the community is speculating, right? But if the community speculates in a good way, then your floor price will keep rising,
Exactly.
right? But I guess
Exactly.
going back to the stuff that we were saying, that we've been filtering out a bunch of shitty projects. We're maturing as well as quote unquote investors. We know kind of like, okay, I'm happy to put my money here for a little bit, and I'm just not gonna look at it, right? Like I'm not gonna look at the floor price. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna
Yeah.
look at the chart. I'm just gonna check, periodically, whether that be in Discord or X or Telegram, and see if I'm doing well with my investment, I suppose. But it's that you need to back it up with stuff, right? Like you can't just, sell fucking smoke and mirrors. Like that's how it is at the moment.
Yeah. And again, like another thing that I think Web3 needs to work on is like really making sure that we present products that people can just easily resonate with, right? Which I think why gaming has been such a big topic or narrative or meta, honestly, of 2024 is because, for example, recently Off the Grid was probably the biggest reach we've gone so far with like actually getting big streamers to play the game and getting a bigger appeal to a master audience that Web3 games in the past were never able to reach, So like, but that's only because one, the game was good, right? And two, AVAX Gaming knew exactly who to reach out to specifically to make sure that the game does well, So I'm always like observing, I'm always learning so much from this space, and honestly, it's just by like being chronically online. It's disgusting,
dude.
But like, dude, there's so much hour. Like, I honestly, like, I don't know if you have an iPhone, but on my iPhone, it tells me how much hours a week I spend on like certain apps, And I think because of Spaces and just my overall addiction to
Yeah.
Twitter, I'm averaging like disgusting hours a week
Dude,
on
I don't
social
even want
media,
to
like
look at
probably
that.
like 19
Yeah.
hours. Dude, I'm like, bro, I need to like touching grass is a real thing for me because I like literally need it
Yeah.
almost every
Yeah.
day. But
That's
yeah.
so funny though. And I guess, speaking about touching grass, like what do you do like on your, I guess, morning routine or on a daily basis? Like, do you go for a walk maybe just to stretch your legs for a bit? Obviously, drinking water, meeting friends on the
Yeah.
weekend. I mean, you have a partner, so you need to obviously allocate some of your time to being with her,
Yes,
right? Like,
yes, yeah,
otherwise, you
yeah.
wouldn't have a partner anymore. So yeah, how do
Exactly.
you like? It's that time
Exactly.
management that we were talking, a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah. Honestly, like I try to stay consistent with the gym, but honestly, my consistency with the gym like is so messed up. But like, I guess one thing I forgot to mention too, like something. Well, when I was a kid, I played. I know you guys call it football, but obviously here in America we call it soccer. But from like 5 years old till maybe senior year in high school, when I was like 17, all I did was just play football my whole life. So like, on top of music, I was also like very much into like high activity sports because I just like, I don't know, I like physical sports. It's very like
Yeah.
fun, and I just like that, you know. And so like nowadays, like I'll play basketball on Monday nights,
nice.
you know, or like just last night. Yeah. Oh, sorry. What
I
did you
said
say?
nice. Yeah, like, oh, nice. Like, you play basketball. Yeah,
Oh
cool.
yeah. So I play basketball like on Monday nights, and then like last night, I don't know if you know what pickleball is. Like pickleball is like kind of like a smaller version of tennis.
Okay.
Honestly, if I can describe it like that. But that's like a growing sport out here in the
A little bit
States,
like
and it's
paddle.
like,
Would you say it's the same?
yeah, it's like
right.
paddle. Yeah. So it's very similar in a
Okay.
sense, but like, I'll pretty much try to fill in a lot of like high activity things to do during my days because, like, to be honest, sitting at a desk for hours and hours long at day is like so, dude, it's so detrimental to your brain.
100%. Yeah.
So like for me to like go outside, even just like do something or just like get sun or whatever that may be, like that to me is so important, even though at times like I'll fail because I'm so tired or I'm just like whatever, like after doing Spaces for so many hours or whatever, like I'll just want to relax and just chill for a bit, you know. So it's very different, bro. It's very different. And I feel like where I've been right now is kind of just like balancing between working and just being active, you know, and whatever that activity may be, as long as I'm getting something away from the screens, like that's all that matters, you know. But yeah, I'll play video games every now and then too, you know, but I really try to just maximize my time with just like work and like doing some form of like going outside or just going on a walk, you know, whatever that may be.
Yeah, fair. And look, honestly, I think for me, it's just like I go on daily walks, right? Like every morning I would just wake up and I go grab my coffee and then I walk just around the property for a little bit. I do like 10-15 laps every morning. It's kind of big property, right? So I can walk for a long time, right? And then I just go back and start doing my own stuff and then try to do that, right? Like try to stretch my legs because like honestly, spending so much time at your desk, like looking at your multiple screens and shit, it can be honestly detrimental to your mental health. Especially when we're just chasing that bag as well, right? Like if you're in the trenches and then looking at charts all the time, and then and then it's, but also that, right? Like when I go on walks and then suddenly I miss something, I'm like, for fuck's sake, why did I go on a walk, right? But I'm like, dude, it's better this way. I rather just try to keep myself relaxed. Like doesn't matter if I miss on a fucking 2x or maybe 10x, like it doesn't really matter. Like just spend time on my own with my friends, with my fam, and just keeping it easy and playing video games as well. Like what kind of video games do you like to play? Like maybe not Web3 related, but like Web2, like what do you like to play?
Dude, I'm like, I think till this day I'm the biggest League of Legends fan ever, bro. I love. I don't know what it is about that game. Like I think I just have like a toxic relationship with it. No, I'm just kidding. Like, because honestly, the game could get so toxic sometimes, and I'm like, it's so funny. Like I'll be 3 months like straight playing League almost every day, and then like out of nowhere, I'll be like, all right, I'm tired of it. Like, and then I'll take a break for like 4 or 5 months, then I'll get back on it again. So I love League. I love the traditional FPS shooters. So like things like Call of Duty, but one thing that I also feel is an underrated game genre. I think it's like role playing games, so like RPG, but like it's for like there's games like called Halo Wars. I don't know if you've played that before, Bogon, but like it's pretty much like you build your own army and then you fight someone else's army, like because that's like and then it's like you have to destroy each other's base, and then that's how you win. Like I love like that style of games too. But yeah, literally in my free time, I'm either playing like League of Legends or I'm playing like a new shooter that just came out, But yeah,
so big into FPS games.
Yes, yeah, pretty heavily.
Because that's something that I do play them, but not that often, to be honest. I honestly, the games that I prefer are really RPG games. Like honestly, I just like to play my game, like kind of like solo mode, and explore the fucking world, go on quests, side quests. Like if I get to name, let's say the top 5, my top 5 would be, Witcher 3, The Last of Us. I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima as well, which is really fucking cool game. The OG Assassin's Creed games as well. They were fucking dope. Red Dead Redemption, for instance, like those kind of games. And Final Fantasy as well. So yeah, it's something that I just like to, sit at my desk, play for fucking hours, forget about everything, instead of like the FPS games that are like just so fucking it's just a lot, right? And then you have a bunch of kids yelling at you all the time. So I'd just rather if I'm just gonna take some time off, I would just rather play my game, explore the game, and those are my kind of games, to be honest.
I also like I miss playing a lot more of like the chill laid back games. But like I want to give a shout out to Spellborn, because Spellborn, they're like essentially very similar to Pokemon, like the just chill, have fun. It's not really competitive in a sense, but you can grind it out. Like I miss playing those games, especially with like our lifestyle in crypto, where it's like everything is so fast paced, and like sometimes you just want to slow down and you just want to chill a bit. Like those type of games really get your mind off of like the stresses of the space sometimes. So yeah, I appreciate that style of games too. But dude, have you seen the trailer for the latest Ghost of Tsushima?
Yes,
there's a new one coming
out. I can't fucking wait. And it's so funny though, because
dude,
obviously I guess we were expecting for the part 2 of the game, right? Like we didn't know it was going to be like hundreds of years ahead of the original game, right? But I was waiting for the Ubisoft game, for the Assassin's Creed game, that there's going to be like samurais and it was going to be pretty cool. But obviously them knowing that there's going to be Ghost of Tsushima 2, which is going to be fucking insane. I can't wait for that game. I've been reading a lot of blogs and YouTube videos and comments and shit. They're like, dude, Assassin's Creed is just not going to be that great anymore, considering that they have to compete with these games too. So yeah, dude, I can't wait. It's just a fucking pretty cool trailer for sure. Yeah.
And here's the thing, man. Like, I'm kind of sad too about Assassin's Creed, because that was like I felt like they started to become Call of Duty, where Call of Duty was it was the same gameplay, but just like different world, or like different guns, or like different maps, and like the pace that they were releasing these games, like they would barely let for example, Black Ops 6 literally comes out today, if I'm not mistaken. And like I wonder though, like, is this just going to be another Call of Duty where the hype only lasts a couple months, and then we wait another year or two for the next title, and then everyone speculates, everyone's all hyped, and it's like, and then it's the same thing all over again,
right? It's like the FIFA games. Like we keep buying those fucking games, and we know it's going to be the same shit, right? Like it's just like nothing has truly changed for the past 5 to 10 years. It's literally just the same thing. Like,
Exactly.
obviously, it's not a business for them, but it would be so much better, like if they just release a new patch or whatever with, you know, the new teams, new, you know, the new shirts or whatever, like new managers, new players, whatever. But yeah, it's the same shit. But people keep buying them. Like, as long as people keep buying them, they're gonna keep doing that. But yeah, it's a bit sad to
Exactly.
see, you know, those big games IPs falling off, because they were great, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah. And like that's the whole thing where I feel Assassin's Creed kind of fell on. It was just like they started to just repeat the
mm,
same concepts for a lot of their games, but like we're now it's just different points of history. Now it's just different points of like, you know,
yeah,
whatever, insert a day and age for life, right? Like that's what I don't want for Ghost of Tsushima to be,
mm,
is like it's this constant, just like, for example, Black Myth
yeah,
Wukong, another massive game title that
yeah,
released this year, right? It if you played God of War or if you played
mm,
Elden Ring before, like that was the same concept. It's the
yeah.
same game, but it was just the way that they marketed the game itself to be like this next
Next big
level,
thing, yeah.
um, the next big thing. But well, here's the thing: they did live up to their expectations because the game itself was actually amazing. It
Mm,
was beautiful, right? But like, I just don't want these gaming studios to get used to the idea of like, oh, like it worked last time, let's keep doing it again. But like,
yeah,
instead of changing anything massively, they only keep it to a minimal
mm,
point, but like I can see the counter argument to that where it's like, well, why would I change anything about my game that's performing well when it, I should be keeping it the
yeah,
same way, right? But like again, I think that's where blockchain is going to change everything, because now the idea of ownership in game
yeah,
assets is the next big thing. And I feel like that can be the next big
yeah,
narrative for a lot of gamers, is right. Imagine like owning your own skin. Imagine owning the only 1 out of 50 golden
yeah,
AK-47s, and you can sell that on a marketplace for like
right,
thousands of dollars, right? So blockchain, I think, is going to revolutionize the way we look at
mm,
gaming, because gaming right now is so
yeah,
repetitive and it's so
yeah.
diluted. But once blockchain is integrated, I think it's going to be a game
Do you
changer.
see any of these big studios um, doing something like pretty fucking epic? You know, utilizing blockchain tech, right? Because we've seen it's kind of like this narrative. We need these Trojan horse coming from Web3, that perhaps these big studios are waiting to see that actually working, for them to be able to, like, okay, you know
Right.
what, fuck this shit. We've seen how Off the Grid has done it, perhaps, right? Now we can do that. We can leverage that. But they need to be. But I think it
Mm,
would be really hard because, I mean, even within Web3, even within crypto Twitter, right? Like, we have different sub communities, right? Ones that are, you know, purely related to gaming. Some are purely related to NFTs. Some of them are purely related to shitcoins.
mm.
But being able
Yeah.
to convey your message to so many different audiences, I think that's something that's been really, really hard for like big Web2 companies coming into Web3, because they don't really know how to fucking navigate this space, right? So hopefully,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we ever get
Yeah.
to see that, and going back to my question, do you see like one of the biggest IPs in Web2 gaming transitioning to Web3 in the next coming years? Do you think they'd still need to wait for that Trojan horse coming from Web3 for them to be like, okay, this is working, this could be a good business model for us, let's jump on the fucking train and give it a go? Um,
Mm. I the first thing, and it's honestly, we talk about this title a lot in the
mhm.
gaming spaces that I host, and it's Grand Theft
Yeah.
Auto, like GTA 6. I think if GTA 6, and if it's true to what they're saying or what we're
Mhm.
speculating on, where it's like they're going to be the first title where they integrate ownership or blockchain like
Yeah.
integration, and it's like, because in GTA, right, I don't know if
Yeah.
you played it before, but it's like the whole point is just to like make as much money as possible and own the coolest
Yeah.
things possible, right? Like that's what the game's kind of revolved around, and that's what makes it a cool flywheel. It's like there's these quests, there's these heists, there's these
Mhm.
missions that you have to complete, and the crazier the missions you do, the more money you make, right? So imagine though, with the things that you buy with this money, right, you can actually, whatever you buy with it, you actually own that in that game, right? Or imagine if the fiat in GTA 6, what if one day that actually becomes a
Mm,
token and these gamers can convert this token into an actual dollar
yeah.
bill one day, right? Like that itself may not be the best plan, but like, it's a
Yep.
scenario, So I think titles like GTA 6 can do extremely well if they were to incorporate it. I think anything that has a high volume of transactions around
Mm,
cosmetics, so like Valorant is another great example. I think Valorant skins are probably like I think Riot, the creator of League of Legends and
mm,
Valorant, they probably make a majority chunk of their money through the cosmetic
yeah.
marketplace versus like
100%.
free
Yeah.
downloads or like, yes, they can host these crazy esport tournaments and sell out stadiums and stuff, but for an everyday transaction to be occurring, I think their player base are buying these
Mm,
skins. But what does that mean though for the players? Yes, they own the coolest skin, but that's it, right? You can rock it in game, but that's
yeah.
it, So we're capped at a certain level of like what we can do in a video game. But the moment that a blockchain marketplace comes in, right, or a crypto marketplace comes in for these gaming
Mm,
platforms where we can sell our items for X amount of dollars, X amount of things, right? All of a sudden, games are now like treated as not just video games anymore, but it's like people have an urge to want to own these
yeah.
things, right? I think of it as like Supreme,
Mm,
one of the biggest fashion brands today, right? It was like back in their peak hype when their products were so high in price in resale, like in resale price, right? Like people will do anything to get their hands on these things. So I look at it again the same way for NFTs in general, or just like anything of concept of ownership, right? If you can attach value to these things, right, people will want it. People will want
yeah.
to buy it. I think it's a matter of like, how are you able to execute this? How are you able to execute it in a way where people do see the value and they want to spend money on
Mm,
it? So I think that's already going on in the gaming scene, but it's like, how can we proliferate that even more? I think that's what I'm trying to see from the blockchain side of
yeah,
things.
dude, that's such a good take, honestly. Like, yeah, I feel like, yeah, you're right. Like, we've been waiting for fucking years to see GTA 6. And in our industry,
Yeah.
we've been speculating a lot if they're actually gonna integrate blockchain tech. I don't know how's the narrative from like the Web 2 gamers, right? I don't know if they're like expecting that, or if they're just suddenly gonna be like, okay, now we're gonna do that, or if there's gonna be a lot of backlash if that happens, right? Because every time that we speak about blockchain, right, with a bunch of Web 2 gamers, or even, the normies, quote unquote, they're a little bit like, do I really want that? Do I really need this? Because maybe they
Mm,
don't know. They
mm,
realize that they don't know what the fuck we're talking about, right? Up until the point that they see, like you said, right? Like, I'm gonna be able to properly own my assets, right? Like, there's only gonna be 50 of this shit. Or maybe if I level up this stuff, I can even resell it for a higher price. But now it's
right.
actual money, right? Like, whether that be their token or whether that be stable coins, who the fuck knows. But yeah, I think, yes, we would love to see that. And perhaps the other thing that I would love to see as well, because these big studios, they tend, like, big studios tend to release a bunch of different games, but they take a lot of time, right? Like, if let's say GTA 5, 6, maybe 7 in like 10 years or so, I would like to see that interoperability where these assets that I have in GTA 6, maybe I will be able to use them in GTA 7. Or what I'm saying is these other games, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's picture Assassin's Creed, right? Like, there's also a bunch of different skins and a bunch of different fucking swords and shit. What if I can bring the assets that I own from, the previous game, right? And I can bring it here because it will give me some more, I don't know, more powers or whatever. Um, that would be cool
Right.
to see, I think. Because yeah, I mean, studios, right? Like, if they collaborate with each other, bringing the asset from here to there, that would be really cool to see, and that you own it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And look, maybe that's just the next step for NFTs and Web3 in general, is like, how can we really push that message for these
Mm,
brands, right? Because I think that's what, again, goes back to the whole connection side of things. If you can build a connection with your audience through a product or through an experience,
mm,
then I think by all means you're gonna be at a really really good point with where your
Yeah.
community is, where the brand is, where the IP is, you know. But yeah, dude, like again, like I think we talked about so many things in today's
Dude,
stream,
I
but
know.
like there's so much like key takeaways that I really enjoyed from this conversation. But yeah, this dude, what Cole's working on is looking crazy. Like it's so sick. Got the logo in there and everything too.
Dude, it's like
So
now I want that to be my plushie, but yeah, NASA, that's yours. It's so fucking cool, hey. That's such a
yeah.
cool plushie, bro. Damn. Cole, do you want to give us a little bit of an update on the plushie?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done. So here's how he looks.
Ooh, dude, the helmet is so dope.
Damn, look at that. That's so cool. That's really, really cool.
This visor should light up, but I don't know why it's not. But yeah, that was a good talk. Really interesting. I like that.
But what do you think about any of the takes that we've said, Cole, as well? Because Cole has also been in the space for quite a while. He's also quite young, like you, BAWSA. He's also, pretty well known in the space. Like, I feel like a lot of people, identify 3D Cole, right? Like this guy, he's been doing stuff for the Plooshies. He's done stuff for the Pudgy Penguins. He's done stuff for Sappy Seals. He's done stuff for Froggy. Yeah, it's just, people know this guy. But yeah, Cole, because he's also in the trenches. But he's the kind of person that buys something, forgets about it, and then 6 months later he's fucking rich. he always buys the right things. Like PopCat, for instance. He was super early with PopCat. But yeah, Cole.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, it was just, I guess my question would be like, of all the stuff that we've said today, do you have any specific take? Do you agree, or maybe you don't agree with that? Or you were just solely focusing on building this plushie?
Oh yeah, I was just listening in, but I think I heard Shroud talk about his new game has blockchain integration, I think. So that would be interesting.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I gotta look into that.
Okay.
So that could be interesting, yeah. It's like some FPS, I'm not really sure. I think it looks like Valorant, something like that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you're also quite big into FPS games, right, Cole? Like, when we were playing Nifty Island a long time ago, suddenly he was saying like, oh yeah, I used to be very fucking good at this other game. And then we played against each other and I'm like, yep, okay, I can tell why. Like, he was just fucking butchering everyone. He's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't play too many games anymore, but I did play a lot, yeah, back in school and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because you were lately you've been playing Black Myth Wukong as well, right? Like you were playing that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played for a while still though. I got stuck on chapter 3.
Have you completed the game, BAWSA?
No, I haven't. I just like tried it and I was like, dude, this is too intense for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. It's a fun game though, nonetheless. I will say that. Are
you playing anything on mobile? Like any mobile games that you've been playing lately? Web3 related, maybe?
No, honestly, not really. The only thing I guess is like probably off the grid, but honestly, like that's soon to be. Well, like here's the thing, man. It's like I myself am guilty of calling these games Web3 games, but they're just games, right? Like they should just be labeled as games, So yeah, like I think but other than that, my most recent one is probably Off the Grid. But even then, Off the Grid has like some sweaty gamers, bro. So like, yeah.
It's not even out that long ago. Hey? Yeah, I can see like when I get to see like streams or replays or whatever, like these guys are getting pretty fucking good at it. And I've heard that it's not that easy to master, right? Like playing the game. Because I downloaded the game. I haven't played it yet. Because I know that this is me, right? When I play a game, I just focus on playing that game a lot. And then I forget about the stuff that I need to do. I don't know if that's ADHD or whatever, but I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna focus on this shit, and then boom, I'm focusing on other stuff. So yeah, maybe one of these days I'll play that game. Yeah, but yeah, lately even
Oh yeah.
last week we hosted it's a friend of mine, his name is Michael. He's the CEO of Snack Gang, and he released a mobile game called TDL, Takedown Legends. Shout out to them, by the way. It's a really cool game. It's like a battle royale game. It's really fucking cool. I think, yeah, maybe you should download it. It's pretty fucking cool. I'll send it to you via DMs. But yeah, that's the mobile game that I've been playing a lot lately. Though it's super fun, fast paced, really cool weapons and power ups and shit. It's really fun, and dude, it's the same thing, right? Like I just like to even mentioning them right now because I like to see those kind of games and products that are pretty fucking cool. That they're releasing something even before they launching a bunch of the stuff that they've been planning to like obviously their upcoming token, their TGE, and their airdrop campaign and stuff. It's just about the game, and so yeah, shout out to them.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I guess yeah, Cole, are you done for today?
Yeah, I'll render
All right.
this.
All right,
probably
cool.
weekend.
Yeah, dude. Well, BAWSA, honestly, this was fucking amazing. We've been waiting for this for quite a while, and I'm just happy that yeah, you took some time of your day. I know that you're a busy bloke, but yeah, just chatting, yapping, ranting, just chill vibes, having fun, and obviously, the concept that. Thank you, by the way, for saying that you liked it. It's this, right? Like we know that one of our main strengths is obviously 3D art, having Cole on our side, and just hosting people like our friends from Web3 coming from different skill sets like yourself. I think you're the first, I guess, KOL who's been with us, and obviously thank you as well for hosting the spaces that you did with Unfungible, the support you have for the Plooshies, for myself, for Cole, for everyone else. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, dude. Like obviously, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow in Brick by Brick for sure. And yeah, if there's anything you want to say related to the stuff that you've been building, or kind of like a CTA for Brick by Brick, or any other stuff, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, just want to say a thank you to you guys, man. It's actually really cool seeing Cole just do his thing. While we have a conversation of honestly many things around the space, but overall, man, really cool concept. I would love to just see more of this, and yeah, like we'll love to run it back, hopefully in the sometime future again. But yeah, I appreciate your guys' time as well.
Yeah, for sure. Let's definitely run it some other time. And for the rest of you guys, I think we have like 215 people watching us right now. So I just want to say, you guys, thanks heaps for that. You could have been somewhere else. You chose to be with us, with Cole, BAWSA, and myself, ranting, yapping, having fun, listening to this AI fucking lo-fi music. But the best thing of all was the combo, the vibes, and obviously Cole creating this pretty fucking cool plushie. Yeah, I think we'll send it your way once it's done. But yeah, other than that, yeah, guys, thanks for your time, and I'll catch you in the next one. So yeah,
good night, guys.
All right.
Awesome.
See you guys. Cheers, mate. See ya.